don't have time to be wasting on these phony, trumped-up culture wars. This fake outrage that the right-wing media peddles to juice their ratings.
When it comes to China, Nike remains silent. You do not address police brutality in China.
You have no right to get in between a patient and a doctor. You're not a doctor, you're a pharmacist.
Ivermectin is not authorized for COVID.
So from funding gain-of-function research to treating these puppies with really unimaginable cruelty, I think that whole lot of them need to be cleaned out, and we need to be standing up for the American taxpayer.
Welcome back, Valby.
Hi.
Did you
I'm
miss
back.
everybody?
I did miss you guys so much. All of you.
How was the St. Pauli
Even
girls
you,
shift?
Tom.
I felt that you were lukewarm about the St. Pauli girls shift last night. It was
You
a
may
late night
not-
for you.
You may not know this, but working in a restaurant kitchen is a lot of hard work.
It is.
So,
It is. I was actually just thinking, Alice, like the last big turn I started to make, the big turn. Well, I shouldn't say that. But the last time I went from really fat to like legitimately thin or normal was helped, in fact, by working at the Harvard Club. Was working at a restaurant.
okay.
Because I worked during the day at the hotel as a concierge, and then only had like an hour or so, and that I could use that to jog or do whatever if I even had that much time. Then I'd have to head to the Harvard Club, and work a night shift there, and which was of functions, whatever. So I had no time to misbehave.
Right.
The only thing I could eat was the food they were cooking there, which
You're immediately completely sick of and never want to see
it's
again.
also like really good food. It's beautiful, expensive fish, etc. It was always good, so generally it was healthy, and I wasn't eating carbs anyway. So it forced me into a bit of a diet. But I remember there's nothing like working in food service, the front or back of the house, or dealing with people. There's nothing like that. When you get a desk job, which I've had now, essentially now for like 18 years, whatever, then the days of the rush are gone.
Right.
The old rush at work, like that you used to have when you were in retail too. And I was in retail, you just slammed, and then you'd suddenly, finally, the calm of everything. And then in an ideal world, then you could smoke,
Yeah, but
the great smoke break. But
although this does involve some beer is in this equation, which does help. Although I do think I need to work on shoe choices too, because when I was young, I worked in retail and I wore heels for 8 or 10 hour shifts. I didn't care. I was it didn't hurt me now like it does. Yeah. But now that I'm old and like standing on a concrete floor for 7 hours, like my back is wrecked, my knees are wrecked.
Oh yeah,
I'm just destroyed. Like,
oh no, you
physically.
should like.
So
I
need like the shoes that nurses wear that are like big clunky sneakers.
You know
like that's what I need.
You guys, if you have suggestions for shoes that are good, when I was working at the back of the house in the kitchen, towards the very end of it, first at one point all the kitchen staff turned because this dinkhead chef came in and he decided he wore legitimate clogs. And so then everybody else switched to clogs and swore they were great, but it doesn't seem to me that's
a lot of people
technology.
Swear by Crocs too,
right? And then as I was saying, towards the end, everybody had switched to Crocs.
Yeah, I hate Crocs. I'm not doing it. I don't care if those are
about
the best
comfort.
shoes.
It's about comfort, Alice. Who cares?
Yeah, but Crocs looks so stupid. I can't look
cares?
that stupid.
You're dressed in a St. Pauli girl outfit, Alice. Heaving bosom and holding 8 beers at a time.
It's not what I'm dressed in. But I can now make all kinds of hot sandwiches and salads and nachos and wraps and things like that. I did make one pizza the other day.
Very nice.
And I learned how to use the type of mop bucket that the thing clips on, and there's the handle that does the thing. So, very glamorous stuff.
Yeah, we don't have the
And I was telling you, I had my first controversy with the wait staff already.
Yeah, well, tell the people very quickly.
So, so I was like busy making all my like nachos and salads and this stuff and sending stuff out with the ticket and whatever. And then they came in and they were like, "You're doing a great job. As a matter of fact, you actually made one extra nacho order." there's an extra one here. Like, you made too many nachos. And I said, I don't think so, because I think I sent all of them out with a ticket, and I think they're all accounted for. Like, I made the right number of nachos. They were like, no, you made an extra. But that's okay. You're doing an awesome job. That's great. And, like, kind of almost, like, condescending a little bit. And they're like, the staff will eat it. It's totally fine. You're doing great, blah, blah, blah. So 5 minutes later, of course, a waiter came into the kitchen and was like, we're still waiting on one of our nachos for one of our tables.
Ooh. Did you throw somebody under the bus?
No, I just made the extra nacho, but I felt vindicated. So
good.
Then people knew that I didn't actually screw up.
Good. As long as they know that you're a perfect little student, just like at the Waldorf school, Alice. There you go.
A plus for me.
So where do we want to start here? Oh yeah. Before we do that, I once again, you know how I've got my lungs have shut down since I've had the CPAP.
The recalled CPAP that causes cancer now.
Well, the first time this happened, I looked and I noticed that the filter was filthy, and so I got rid of it and changed out the filter.
Right.
And I was supposed to like change out the filter 6 months earlier. So now I've looked. I just looked at the filter last week, and I realized I didn't look at it right. The filter also is filthy again.
Oh, okay.
I've let it happen twice. So these are just lung infections.
Don't you have like a little thing of the filters that you ordered
online? The kids destroyed them and effed them.
Okay. Well, do you need to
them,
order
destroyed
more?
Them because they destroy everything.
Maybe
I need to order more. Because,
okay.
But I had one left that they haven't destroyed because they have to find my effing CPAP filters and they need to destroy those too because nothing can be saved. That's fine. So there's my one thing.
Okay. So hopefully your wheeze will improve.
Right. And then I have a PSA for everybody, especially you guys, especially you fat guys. And this is a lesson I've learned. In some ways, I've learned this previously, but never to this scale. As you know, Alice, I've been doing the keto diet. Okay? For about a week now.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of getting into it, especially since I found out I could eat clam sauce. I mean, that's the greatest thing in the world. Yeah. So anyway, I've been actually eating avocados and other stuff, and then like it's not too bad. So this morning I had pork belly left that I had to cook. During the last hour of my show, I chucked it in the oven. When I was done at 2:00, it was done. It had been an hour, and it was beautiful, brown, sizzling, lovely when I took it out of the oven. And because I couldn't be a normal non-fat and not just wait 5 minutes for it to cool down, which you do anyway to have kind of the meat settle, whatever. I tore into it right there and fought through the pain as it burned my mouth. And I could feel my mouth being burned and like the layers just falling off. It was just so I could feel it happening. But the pleasure, because I'm a fat idiot, the pleasure was so much that I couldn't stop. So I had to... So I just took it in the pain because I had to shove it into my mouth. So by the time I finished eating it was the time I should have started to eat it. You know.
Right.
So that's what I get. So before this show started, I was a little hungry and I thought, oh great, there's avocados there. And I have the avocado. I open it up. Take out the little pit, right? And in the little pool that's left, I fill the in-ground pool in.
With hot sauce.
And that hot sauce now gets spackled all over my raw third-degree burns. And once again, I'm eating the avocado and trying to glean pleasure, but also just getting mostly pain.
Do you like pain?
I don't know, but this is acute because I'm going to do it again.
Why?
Because I need a psychologist.
Why don't you just eat something soothing?
No, I have a dream. I think I don't eat.
Probably that seltzer you have in your hand hurts on it too.
It does. Hi, mine, Cyril. So anyway, there's a couple things I want to get to. I want to get to the Melrose Halloween. No.
There's one, Cyril. There's one in my bedroom next to my bed that you can have. You can drink Mommy's seltzer.
Okay. Thank you. That's good. That's more than a sip at this point. Okay. Still happening. Thank you. Was that good? Okay. I'll be cleaning out the top of the bowl. The reason I don't like them having a sip, Alice knows, is because
there's an intense spitback situation.
Yes. It's horrific. We've seen horrific things. So anyway, The Melrose story. Melrose has gone ahead and declared that they can't have Halloween in the school.
Yeah, no, they can have a fall festival.
Right, or Spirit Day or something like that.
But they can't be like Halloween-themed activities. They can't be like jack-o'-lanterns and
Right.
witches and pumpkins and ghosts. Because that's not inclusive.
Right.
So, and I think most of the town is actually, I mean, and they're super progressive, but there's like 850 people so far have signed a petition that they want it undone. And they're having a Halloween costume parade in order to like protest it, to like celebrate Halloween. Now, the town as a whole hasn't like banned Halloween altogether. It's just in the schools. There's no like classroom Halloween parties, no wearing your costume to school, no like nothing Halloween themed, because it's not inclusive. The holiday itself has religious roots. Some people don't celebrate it depending on their religion. And, you know, some people are offended by it. So they've decided that in the interest of inclusion, they're not going to celebrate it in school. They can do like a sort of generic fall happy festival where they like, you know, maybe do leaf activities or something, but they can't do
right. But
Halloween.
It comes all from the same place. Mm-hmm. It comes from the same place. They found a way to make it so that they've drilled around
Mm-hmm.
and found a reason to change something that people really like to be involved in.
Right. So to quote the superintendent, she said, she referenced examples of groups of students who dress up in themed costumes, leaving other students out, or students who don't have the resources for elaborate costumes like other classmates. When one student didn't have a costume, she said a teacher drew them a face on a plate. Even if it's one kid, that's why some groups are marginalized, Kuchenberger said, because they aren't the majority culture. There's still lots of other ways for people to celebrate Halloween. Meanwhile, kids who don't participate are candidates to stay home. There are some people who don't celebrate Halloween, Kuchenberger said. That'll mean some kids don't come at all that day. I would wager that those folks in Melrose at this point, because I know there are, you know, very serious Christians who don't want to celebrate it at all. You know, myself, I have a problem with some of the more, like, scary costumes. Like, I don't want my kids dressed up like that. I think it's weird. I think it's odd. Like, one of Sally's friends one year dressed up as like a dead Victorian doll with like zombified
so we are here
makeup.
In West Hartford.
I think that's
Halloween, and you can see people
on.
walking
I'm going to play this for a second.
But can I finish my
yes?
Quick, quick thought?
But by the way, I don't care about I don't care about that. I would have no problem if somebody wanted to be the dead Victorian doll.
I think it's creepy, and I think it's weird to dress up your child as like a weird dead thing.
But did you want to end Halloween?
No, I didn't want to end Halloween,
Okay.
and I would expect that the like very serious Christians, the like usually it's like evangelicals that think Halloween is demonic and don't want it, that those are probably few and far between in Melrose. I don't know that it's ever actually happened.
But there could be possibly a couple. But obviously this is a project. This is what we do now in white woke towns, is we find reasons to end things and to assuage our guilt.
Here she says too, why does it need to happen at school? Why is that a school responsibility as opposed to a community event? Like, why is it my job to teach our children how to celebrate Halloween? It's not my responsibility. Like, well, okay, maybe we can take some other things off your plate, like Indigenous Peoples Day and stuff. Like, why is that your responsibility? Why is Pride Day your responsibility? Why is Drag Queen Story Hour your responsibility? You make time for a lot of stuff, just depending what you feel like.
Oh, totally. And so people have been attacking the school on Facebook, etc., and the decision makers. And so here's something, this is what I think is very interesting and very typical. A friend of mine from the town, who I used to do fat camp with, who I love, who's awesome. She's awesome. She's a cool person. She comes from a working class town, moved into Melrose, is a big overachiever, and she's just awesome. She's just a great person. But she's a progressive. You know, awesome people are progressives. That's when she posted on the group page, guys, I understand that some people are angry about this, yada, 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 but let's please not attack the school. Please don't attack the school and the people involved in that. You know, let's find other ways to have fun with it. For instance, one school is doing like everybody wears gray or something. She said, you know what, one school is doing this thing where everybody will just wear gray. We'll call it like Gray Day. So that's how they're going to And
Sounds fun.
Talk about like a Marxist way of flattening down everything. So anyway, but I thought it was interesting. And it very much reminds me of what Barack Obama said today. Do I have that? I think. Oh, here we go.
We don't have time to be wasting on these phony, trumped-up culture wars. This fake outrage that right-wing media peddles to juice their ratings. And the fact that he's willing to go along with it instead of talking about serious problems.
Whatever. So you get it. Mm-hmm. And I've seen this forever, including with the Indian stuff in our town, with the Sachem stuff, and we'll get to the Sachem stuff again from Winchester.
Right.
People look at the outrage to these Halloween change, whatever, and look at it and say, guys, why are you acting out? Don't act out. Don't act out like that, please. Please don't attack people, etc. Without ever looking at the initial crime.
Right.
They were attacked.
No, they didn't start it.
Right. Or nothing was organically taking instances of Sachem logos away into the wind. Right. It was an aggressive political movement, a cultural movement. People were people were making that happen. And they act as if, oh, guys, why are you... No, don't direct it.
You made this into like this weird culture war battle. It's so weird. We showed up at your kids' children's library with a drag queen to read them a book, and now you're like turning this into some kind of culture war?
Well, they don't even start there, Alice. They don't even start there. They start at, why are you attacking the library for something? They don't attack at the drag queen. They don't start there, Mm-hmm. And it's damaging, is what it is. Mm-hmm. And it's just wild. Like, we're just gonna the sign, guys. We just think the sign needs to be rethought, to which people react when he said about the Indian sign. Hey, the sign's fine. Don't touch the sign. We like the sign. Then they say, guys, nobody's talking about changing the sign. Nobody's talking. We're not going to do anything to the sign, guys. Come on, stop saying that. Please calm down. Please calm down. Please calm down. Why are you guys making so much noise? And now they're changing the sign. Right. It's always about the reaction to it. What it is? It's this condescending thing that they know what they're going to do because they know so much. They study Ibram X. Kendi and they read all this bright stuff, the 1619 Project, etc. Mm-hmm. They're huge progressives. And Melrose has had this for years, has had, I feel bad for being a white person meetings that they go to. All of them are way overeducated. They're credentialed up to the hilt. Mm-hmm. And so they look at this about the signs in the logos, etc., in Halloween, and they say, okay, guys, we all know as good progressives that this is offensive and hurtful, and this is hostility. We all agree, right? So the problem is we all know, guys, that these idiots in the town, the people who like trick-or-treating the old way and like Red Raiders or Warriors or Sachems, we know that those idiots are going to react badly, and we know that they can't understand, they can't comprehend our level of intellectual discussion. So we're going to have to do this very carefully, guys. So let's just be very careful as we take their things away, pat them in the head, and say, guys, don't lash out, don't say things, make it about their behavior. Mm-hmm. Which is barbaric compared to our behavior, which is very noble.
Well, and this is especially rich because Obama was saying this in the context of being in Virginia to support Terry McAuliffe for his gubernatorial campaign. And he's been campaigning specifically on parents being a problem by showing up at school committee meetings and causing trouble and getting arrested. Mm-hmm. Things that were cited in the National School Board Association's letter to the DOJ, asking them to investigate parents who come to school board meetings, including the arrest of one dad who was there to let the school committee know that under their proposed policy for dealing with transgender students in bathrooms, his daughter had been violated in a bathroom by a guy wearing a skirt who was saying he was a girl, right? And that that this happened. It's now the court case was just decided that he was in fact found guilty of doing this kid. And his second court case, where when they switched his schools to keep it quiet, he did it to another kid. The second court case is still pending the outcome. So the parents of both girls have now put out statements and everything. And so that really happened. So it's especially rich for, Obama to come out here and be like, oh, these culture war issues. It's just your kids being raped in the school bathrooms. The Republicans are trying to gin up support for their, phony culture wars that aren't really happening. Are you aware what's happening in this state literally right now that we're actually fighting about? And it's interesting, the polls are not looking great for Terry McAuliffe right now. I don't want to. He's going to win, I think. I don't want to get my hopes up because it was always kind of a long shot with Glenn Youngkin, but a couple of the recent polls in the past few days have them tied, or even in some cases Youngkin up by a point or two. So it's definitely, he's surging at the right time, and it's much, much closer than Terry McAuliffe wants it to be. He tweeted this today, a little while ago, actually, an hour ago. Folks, let's take a step back. Glenn is spending his final days of the campaign focused on banning award-winning books from our schools and silencing the voices of Black authors. I know we can read between the lines and see these Trumpian dog whistles for what they truly are. On November 2nd, we must reject these politics of hate and divisiveness, but we can't do it if you don't get out and vote. But meanwhile, a poll that was just released today shows he's losing parents of K through 12 kids by a margin of, I think it's 56 to 37 amongst parents, because he's been campaigning on parents, you don't own your kids, they don't belong to you, we decide what happens to your kids and everything else. The Washington Post put this out as an op-ed today. This is their op-ed. Parents claim they have the right to shape their kids' school curriculum. They don't, right? These two people in the Washington Post, one of whom is Jack Schneider, who's a scholar of education history, and Jennifer Berkshire, who does a podcast about education policy and politics. So, but they've decided, again, it's the same talking points. It's, this is just something that, Republicans are getting parents worked up about that doesn't really matter. They don't really have the right to do anything to it. Parents' rights is turning into this talking point for the right wing. They're politicizing the schools. But again, like you were saying, the focus is all on the parents' behavior because the school committees are covering up kids being raped. They're forcing crazy ideologies on kids, forcing them to sign a compact to reject their whiteness, telling kids that being on time is a white patriarchal behavior, and crazy nuts things. This is what they're telling kids in school. So it's they're doing this crazy stuff. They're politicizing it. And then when parents say, excuse me, this is not the way we want this to go. They're oh my gosh, why are you making this all about politics? Why are you so angry? With the dad that got arrested at the school committee meeting as he's trying to go there to tell them, although they already knew and were just lying about it, because now we have reporting that they absolutely had been informed in writing about this in the days leading up to this, this vote, that, that he wanted to say in the public record, in the public meeting that his elected officials are at, that his daughter was assaulted in a bathroom at the school under their stupid policy. So, the whole thing is so egregious and so crazy. And I think that, I think their tone about it really shows how scared of it they are, because it's a message that's working. So they're turning around and saying oh, this is just political messaging by the Republicans. They're trying to politicize this. They're sloganeering. They're just trying to turn it into something. Obama's saying, these phony culture wars. No, it's not a phony culture war. It's a culture war that you started waging on just people who were minding their own business, doing their thing, trying to live their lives. But,
You're right. And it would be nice to get some validation on this. So So a place where I am feeling validated, and this brings the things together. We've talked about Monica Cannon Grants, and talked about the fact that that she is being investigated now. Her husband was busted. He's being indicted. And they essentially have been playing funny with some of the violence in Boston money. That's the allegations. He's used it to get a loan and whatever. So now the great thing is, last year at this time, I did a podcast on the Winchester School Committee because they were banning the name Sachems. Obviously, I'm from Winchester. We had the Winchester Sachems. I've got a little towel around here that says Sachems. My starting quarterback Letterman jacket I lost along the way. Yes,
you did.
But anyway, around that time, I discovered, I watched the entire school committee debate on getting rid of the sign, sign. In which case, the driving person behind the meeting was a person named Zaina Marchant of the Winchester School. She absolutely wanted those. She wanted the Sachems to be changed. So now Zaina Marchant, she's part of the National Organization of Women, a member or whatever. She marched for Black Lives Matter. This is her during that, and I knew this is her, son of Zaina Marchant at the time.
I want to go back to a statement you made just a little bit ago, and then a statement we received via email about your organization. First of all,
this is where she's yelling at an Indian and Native American because he's for Sachems. The people for the name also brought in their own people, but she's going to take him to task.
That I believe you said that all natives are referred to as chiefs and Sachems. Isn't it in fact that chiefs and Sachems are reserved for people who receive that honor within the tribe?
Oh no, I think you misheard me, because I'm sure I didn't say that. Because the what I was trying to say is the word chief and Sachem or Sachem, however you choose to pronounce it, these are titles.
So this is her trying to explain to the Native American what the words mean. See, this is their clever way of saying, you guys wanted to be called the Sachems. Why do we want to be called Sachems? Well, because it's a cool Indian warrior. That's not exactly what it means in the definition. So no, you can't. So this is her trying to do that.
The word is not Sachem, it's actually Sachem, according to the tribe that we're referring to. So that the audience is clear on that. It is Sachem.
I have talked to other good liberals who have told me the same thing, because I've hired the same Indian consultant, who tell them, no, by the way, so this is calling the town fools. You've been saying Sachems the whole time. It's not even Sachems, stupids. It's actually Sachems. So there you go. That shows that you didn't really care about the name anyway. It's based on a line. See, it's not even called that.
I haven't researched the exact word Sachem, but I know that there's debate about how a lot of Native American words are pronounced because they weren't living languages. They were lost languages for a while. For example, Sacagawea, that we grew up in was called Sacagawea. My kids watched this movie about Lewis and Clark, and they were calling her Sacagawea.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I looked it up, and it's actually not that it changed, but they're not sure, because depending which tribe she identified with, they have two different potential etymologies, and they're not sure based on how Lewis and Clark were writing it down which way it was supposed to be pronounced, because we don't have her here to ask her how she says her name.
Sure, but what she's doing is playing a game here.
I know more than you.
Right. You don't love the team, the word Sachems, really? You don't. Yeah, I do. No, you don't, because you don't even know what it means. And you don't even know that's not the real word.
That's not how you pronounce it.
Right. So you don't. So you're not attached. You're attached to a fallacy. That's why we have to change it. And it's trying to find an intellectual way to justify what is nothing but a punitive action against people. You see people like that sipping Dunkin' Donuts going down to the Thanksgiving game? No. We're taking that thing away from them. We're going to show them why they're freaking... That's what they do.
Then when they get upset about it, then we're going to ask them why they're so angry and complain that they're starting a culture war.
Here's Zaina Marchant again.
From my own understanding, I can't even say it because so many people have told me how bad it is. The R word, as I refer to it, is as bad as the N word.
I don't even know what the R word.
The previous name of the Washington football team.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
That is also apocryphal. If you look, NPR itself had an article on how it was Indians who were using redskin as an identifier.
Oh, there's still high schools on reservations that are attended by Native American students that use that as a mascot.
Yes, it's just, but she can't even say it because it's stupid. She's a psychotic is what you need to understand. And she can't say.
She can't bring herself to say.
I just haven't hated, I'm unhappy and disgusting person, so I want to take your things from you. But that's what she wants. Here's Zena one more time.
Native Americans are not a monolith, so not everybody's going to agree.
Well, then leave us alone. Then
so
your
why
guy,
are you forcing them to do something
then
when you're not even one of them?
Why are you paying consultants to say it's not Sachem, it's Sachem? The same consultants who go to every big, rich, liberal town and shake down guilty white women mostly. Mm-hmm. You know? And pretending that that's every Native American voice. And also, here's another thing. I don't give a flying F if Native Americans don't like using Sachems. I don't care. I like the term. You can call, Americans Rangers or, you can call the team the Delta Force or the Navy SEALs or the SEAL, whatever, attack squads, whatever you want to call them. And that's fine. Who cares? If that's what your school likes and you're all for it, and who cares? Who's getting offended by anything?
Nobody is.
If you call them the taunting Al-Qaedas, I could see how maybe that's a little divisive. But still, if you want...
and generally when you name your mascot after something, it's something you like.
Right, which is also misses the point. The fact that we've taken away the praising of Indians because this psycho...
Because you don't put on the uniform that says the name on it unless it's something that you like revere and agree with. That's what's like so crazy. Like in my high school, we were the Minutemen. It wasn't like because we didn't like Minutemen. Like you're...
Right. And Alice, what was a primary reason the Minutemen had to be ready in just minutes to muster and to be ready to go to battle?
Native Americans.
Sachems. That's right.
Indigenous peoples.
So my buddy Turtle Boy wrote about her, and I like this because it validates everything I always just assumed. He says Zena's listed as treasurer for Violence in Boston, Inc., which seems to me would put her in a position right now of interest to the United States Attorney's Office. Which no doubt it is. Her address is a different address than is registered on the Middlesex County Register of Deeds. And it says that they don't own the piece of property that they're contending they do. According, they've just misstated their primary address, is what he's saying. But here's the perfect thing. Here's Turtle Boy's writing. It's unclear. Remember, she's good buddies, Black Lives Matter, with Monica King. It's unclear why or how she ended up in Winchester, but they became property owners in Stoneham in 2014. This residency in Stoneham became an issue when Zena ran for and was elected to the Winchester School Committee in 2018. But she claimed she was living as a nanny in her sister's home in Winchester. Sounds totally believable. Once elected, her biggest accomplishment was using the death of George Floyd to get the high school to change its names, which we just totally did, to something that didn't make white people feel as badly about themselves. Despite having no real ties to the community, she was changing it. That's right. She led it, even though she had just blown in from Stoneham.
And prior to that, from like across the country, right? Didn't she relocate to Stoneham / maybe Winchester from somewhere totally different?
He says when she ran for office in 2018, she highlighted this in her resume. Here's her resume. After law school, I advocated for migrant workers through the Legal Assistance Foundation and represented indigenous clients in family law matters. I later served as directions for a county and director of IT for a court system. In both of these roles, I was responsible for technology implementation, including database development, training, and data sharing. Jason and I have 2 boys attending Lynch Elementary, where I am active with Parents Association. In my position as a board member of the Winchester Special Education Parent Advisory Council, I have worked to strengthen the relationship between parents and their district. Says she moved to Winchester from the Chicago area. She has practiced law and worked as director of elections for a county and director of IT for its court system. Locally, she volunteers with the Lynch. Says in March, she was honored by the Network for Social Justice as Women's History Month honoree. In her bio, she listed Monica Cannon Grant as one of the 3 most inspiring people of her life. In 2012, she moved to Massachusetts with her husband and 2 young sons, eventually settling in Winchester. So her profile brags about how she was able to solicit donations from the Winchester community to go towards Grant's fraudulent nonprofit. Mm-hmm. She continues to deepen her work with violence in Boston. Now, at some point, he mentions all of the donations that they have, and the fact that this person, they bought a new house in Winchester in 2020.
Well, that's nice for them.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Some people get all the luck.
Yeah, and then there's still crowdfunding. Did you see this part of the article too?
According to the registry, they do own a duplex at 20 in Winchester, which they got a $423,000 mortgage for in 2020.
Okay. But did you see the crowdfunding aspect of the Turtle Boy article too? This one slayed me. Zena Marchant was on Facebook crowdfunding for a new dining room set for Monica Cannon Grant, despite the fact that her husband Clark Grant was double dipping as an MBTA employee while collecting pandemic unemployment assistance for 78 consecutive weeks. Zena's post read, "Community activist Monica Cannon Grant is in need of a dining set before Thanksgiving to host her family, including her adopted children. I would love to be able to crowdfund to make sure she is able to have her beautiful family around a warm, loving, joyous holiday feast. Please donate and share this fundraiser. Thank you."
These people are grifters and psychotics.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and she's the treasurer of the organization. So with all the fraud that's going on, he goes on to talk about, I mean, some of their former employees have accused them of fraud and have saying they stole money from them. I mean, the list goes on and on. This was a garbage organization. And, you know, thank goodness for people like Turtle Boy who are out there, because obviously the parts of the media that haven't been completely gutted for all their employees and payroll and, you know, have staff left to do anything, like the Globe still has staff left, but they're not interested in looking at this stuff or following up on this. I mean, I think they did ultimately finally report that, you know, Monica's house was raided, but they didn't go into detail because they can't report on this stuff because it just makes them look bad. And every other organization that's donated to her, I mean, and, you know, everyone should check out this Turtle Boy article because it's incredible. And about, you know, the white women who really have gotten, like, way into this with Monica Cannon Grant and how, like, complicit they are in this. In 2020, Zena brought Monica onto Cambridge Community Television for an episode called Forget the Seat, I Need the Whole Damn Table. Directors Kimberly Sansucci and Emily Shield introduced Zena and Monica for a 90-minute forum designed to get white women to donate to violence in Boston. According to Sansucci, we get to be in conversation with Monica and Zena and imagine a world where we get to live in a community where black women are the leaders, where those who are the most marginalized move to the front and are centered. How are we as white folks looking to eliminate racism? How will we interrupt the racial inequities in our community? The whole show was a way for Monica to explain to upper middle class white female liberals how they could eliminate racism. Spoiler alert, the answer is to give her money. And Turtle Boy writes, the video is a window into the psychological effect Monica's grift has on liberal white women like this who are consumed with white guilt. It's clear while listening to Zena that what she considers to be friendship is actually a one-way street that ends the moment Zena questions Monica or is no longer useful to her. The entire relationship is based around Zena heaping praise on Monica, which Monica hardly ever reciprocates. Zena said at one point in the interview, no one is able to teach me like Monica about how to be an anti-racist.
Okay.
She is a black mother living in Roxbury, doing the work that all black mothers in these communities are doing. They are fighting for the lives of their children. Monica is likely one of the only black people Zena has ever built a relationship with. She believes her hyperbolic anecdotes and lies are indicative of what the average black person in America is dealing with. This horrifies Zena because she's extremely gullible, and it makes her want to do something about it. She goes so far as to call Monica brilliant several times and seems to genuinely believe that. So even though she's like this huge fundraising force behind it, she's, kept Monica in the spotlight because that's like what she's trained to do as a white ally, is
right.
Keep Monica Cannon Grant centered as the black mother.
And get all these people in towns.
Mm-hmm. All the good liberals are doing
Winchester. I mean, so what is the whole thing about being a white upscale person or upper middle class person who's into this is so you can say, count me as somebody who acknowledges omnipresent racism and that oppression is happening now. Count me as one of those people. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and even if it's like, wow, I've just seen it long face, but I've just seen it. It just occurred to me with George Floyd, just how the inequities have happened, and how if I was pulled over by the cops, they never would have done that to me. And it was this wonderful, what's that called when it's an over feeling the experience? It's a wonderful experience. It's a fulfilling emotionally experience.
Mm-hmm.
No, what is it called?
I don't know. Sorry, I wasn't listening to you. I
Yes,
was looking at the article more.
What's the experience called when you've had it's something
epiphany?
No,
catharsis.
Catharsis, yes, cathartic experience. And to say that,
Mm-hmm.
much like when the Me Too happened before that,
right?
You had like dudes saying, you know what? Looking back at it now, I was a bastard to women. I probably should have been more chivalrous, and probably you didn't want that extra beer, and I'm sorry to all you ladies. It was a way to not only like humble brag about how cool you were, but also to say, okay, it's my turn in this moment to get to have everything to be about me, to do the cathartic thing, and to share it, and to now go ahead and praise me and tell me not to beat up myself too bad. I'm really a great guy and whatever. And it's just this addiction, and that's what the people were in Range Rovers were doing. Oh, I also see it too, that it's everywhere, that it's terrible too. So count me. It's effing pathetic. Will you listen to me?
I am listening to you. I am.
No, now you're listening to me, but now you're not. You're like, what would you like to talk about?
I was looking through the article that I was providing.
Okay, but I was talking over there, so I need somebody over there to be hearing, processing, and then talking back.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Jesus.
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry.
All right.
Speaking of relationship red flags.
Yeah.
Matt Walsh is in another Twitter fight because a listener wrote to ask him if it's a red flag that his fiance doesn't want to take his last name. And he said, it's not just a red flag. It's a deal breaker. Men, don't marry women who won't take your name. It's a wall of separation she wants to keep between you, and it won't be the only one. So Michelle Cohen, MD, was very upset that he wrote this.
MD.
And Michelle Cohen, MD, said that men who obsess over signs that you might not be 100% willing to subsume your identity into theirs are looking for a mommy, not a partner.
Partner. So here's my feeling on it.
Mm-hmm.
I have no principle. I don't think there's a reason in the 21st century that it's important that we, for organizational reasons or whatever, that or family tree reasons, that the woman take the last name of the man. I do feel that if you're a woman who doesn't want to and or wants to hyphenate the name, that you are bringing a pile of effing issues into the relationship, and I would consider it a valid red flag.
Well, I think first there's a simple practicality issue, which is that it's a lot easier if everybody in your family has the same last name, and hyphenated last names are a big pain. They just are. I mean, our kids were talking about a friend of theirs who, I shouldn't dox a kid, but has a long first...
Dox the kid, Alice. Let's change the theme of the show.
The kid's name is...
Don't. What?
You
sick?
Anyway, they have a long first name and then two long last names hyphenated together. And my kids were saying like, "Oh yeah, so and so always hates it when he has to write his full name on the paper at school.
Not enough letters in the alphabet.
He's got like X's, V's. He's like a long last name and first name, right? And then like, what are you gonna do when you grow up and you, with the hyphenated name, want to marry another person with a hyphenated name? Are you just going to hyphenate all four together? Like, you can't have exponential multiplication of names over the generations. There's a reason we've decided to like cut it back and just use one. So, I mean, I understand like adult women who are like really known in their profession as with like a certain last name, but that's already like, that's a subset of people because that's people who are getting married later in life too. I mean, like, I think you solve a lot of that problem if you get married in your 20s or so, and then you don't have to worry about it because it's not like you have some big like professional career already pinned on a different name.
Right.
So, I mean, you can solve that problem if you get married earlier. And then, you know, I don't think there's any reason not to have the same last name. I think, and if you want to pick the other one, like, fine. If somebody doesn't like their last name,
so do you have a dead name?
I do have a dead name. Yeah,
Uh-oh.
It's true. It's also called a maiden,
don't say it.
maiden
don't,
name
please
in
don't
some
say it.
cultures.
Please don't say it. That's violence towards you. All right, I want to get to one moment. Why am I not seeing everything? I'm not seeing. Oh, here's a couple of people. By the way, West Hartford it's like the Winchester, whatever. It's a nice liberal town. Range Rovers, you get the whole thing. The news station did a big package on the fact that they're easing mask mandates because like 98.9% of people are vaccinated. The other ones have had it. Nobody's at risk anymore. So this is West Hartford. So they're like, okay, I guess we won't do masks anymore. This is how the news package did not go the way it was supposed to. This is how the news package went when they interviewed people.
I think we'll still be masking, and we would like it if more places did, but we understand that this is a moment of success and that things are going down, and that's great for the community.
Yep, he'll still be masking, absolutely. They showed him later in the restaurant, and he's just sitting there eating with the family, no masks. He'll still be walking over when he goes in, and when he goes to the bathroom, he'll put his mask on, etc., as if that does a freaking thing. Still playing the dress-up game, still playing make-believe. Yes, we'll still be masking. Absolutely. Here's another woman.
It makes me a little nervous.
Here's another woman.
I'm a lawyer, and I've had a few clients just in the last week tell me that they've had family members die of COVID, and so it makes me very nervous because I'm worried about the breakthrough cases.
Yeah, probably means you're next, I would think. That's happening. Here's another one. This is my favorite guy of all, Alice. Ready? Mm-hmm. I need you to be listening now.
I'm
listening. You're typing. Okay, what are you typing?
I'm trying to see how many people have died of COVID in Connecticut because
it's not very high.
The 7-day average is 3 per day. So in 202, yeah, it's been low. So if she's had people in the last couple of weeks tell her that people have died, she must know like all the people who've had a relative die of COVID in the whole state of Connecticut.
So listen to this is my favorite guy here. Ready?
I do kind of enjoy the mask rule. I like that I haven't had a cold in a year, so all of that's good as well.
He doesn't just enjoy masks, Alice. What does he enjoy?
That he hasn't had a cold in
No.
The mask rule?
The rule. Right. He does not just that he could just wear a mask. If you want to be a psychotic, that's fine. Just go wear your mask. No, I like the rule that you're telling me to do it, and so I have to do it. It's a sense of comfort. Oh, man. Talk about, can you imagine? I enjoy that rule that binds my mouth closed. Thank you. Do that rule. That's a good rule.
There is
and
something
I didn't have
a little...
I didn't have a cold last year. Wait, so every day of this year, while you're breathing in that mask, was worth one cold? I really hate colds. Okay, I guess so. The funny thing is, Alice, we're at the point now where we're not... All of those people, Connecticut's almost completely vaccinated. Okay?
Right.
There's hardly any deaths happening from this, and if there are deaths, they're from people who have other things happening. We're at the point now in this situation where these people don't seem to understand. Them wearing a mask now is exactly the same as them wearing a mask 2 years ago, which would have been seen as bizarre behavior in which they would need an orderly to come over and give them pills in a little pleated paper cup that they would have to make sure they take. Don't pretend you're taking it and spit it out. That would make them insane. Now, this insane behavior is just normal behavior. I like the mask. I like it. Didn't have a cold last year. Okay, that's fine. You're a psychotic. That's fine.
Well, right. And you hear people talk about like how they'll, see shows from before. Like when I see people hugging on TV shows and crowds without wearing masks, it makes me so uncomfortable. I mean, now that things have reopened, they have like red states to look at. Like I remember at the Super Bowl in Tampa or wherever that was, like people were like, oh my goodness, this crowd, is this okay? It makes me so nervous when I look at all the people close together. Like, because we've genuinely given people paranoia now about like being close to other people. It's like made a bunch of people antisocial and weird.
That's fine. They, like, just don't be. If it's okay if you're antisocial and you just go to your sub basement and just go wait to die, that's fine. Don't demand that we get another mask rule. I like the rule. No, not just me. I like everybody has the rule. Psychotics. And now there's this video of a pharmacist, also a psychotic, where this dude goes in and tries to get his ivermectin with his prescription from a doctor for humans to get it.
I had a prescription for ivermectin to pick up. I have a licensed licensed doctor that prescribed that to me. That's against the law.
No, actually it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
You can call the board of pharmacy and call whoever you want to.
You have no right to get in between a patient and a doctor. You're not a doctor. You're a pharmacist.
Ivermectin is not authorized for COVID.
It's FDA approved, sir.
Not for COVID.
It doesn't have to be. It's an off-label product. Do you know what that means?
I do know what that means.
Okay, so then you should know better.
No.
Yes.
You need to research it.
You need to research it.
F you, dude. It's like only one thing are pharmacists saying, no, well, what are you going to use it for, the right thing, right? Then no. No, you're not using it for what Trump people like to use it for.
Well, I hope liberals will like the world that they create when they do this, because like what's going to happen when the Christian pharmacist won't fill the puberty blockers for the trans kid?
Oof.
You know, what's going to happen when the pharmacist won't fill the morning after pill for you? When they say, nope, I don't approve of what you're using it for. I don't like what you're taking it for.
I'm going to steal that point and use it tomorrow on the air else.
You know. Thank you so much, everybody. Good to be back talking to you again. You can find us on Twitter at Burn Barrel Pod. We're at Burn Barrel Podcast.
Did you want to apologize for not listening to me?
I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you. I'll be better.
Thank you.
That's my catharsis, honey. Thank you for putting me through that confession reconciliation process. I really appreciate it. You can find us at burnbarrelpodcast.com. You can write us an email, burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com. You still can't find us on YouTube because of medical misinformation, but we are on Rumble.
The word is not Sachem, it's actually Sachem.